Amanda, and also all the kids. Amanda Bowman and all the kids come up. They're going to talk. They're going to read the passage. Let's make them feel a little welcome.
Good morning. I can't touch the ground from this ship. Thanks. I'm going to sit up a little bit. All right, so I'm going to have all the kids sit down. These are my overflow kids. They're elementary. They're kindergarten through 5th grade, and I have a 6th grader tossed in here for crowd control. Sometimes I need that. Thank you for my amazing volunteers, my helpers who help me out. But this month we are talking about service, and it's service with a smile. And you've probably seen little spots around the church lately that my kids have done, and they just want to be part of who we are in the congregation. So I'm going to actually talk to my kids now. I'll talk to you later. All right, so I want to tell you guys a story today about Mary and Martha. So it's a really good story, and I want you to listen, because I'm going to have some questions, and you know I like. So, you think that's what distracted Mary? Was just that Jesus was there in her house and she got to listen to him? You think that was it? No, you don't think that was it? What do you think it was? Yeah, I think that's what it was. All right, well, that's good. Well, what is the one thing that Mary chose to do that day? what she chose to do, right? Why was Martha upset about it? Ooh, Connor. She wasn't helping her cook dinner. She wasn't helping her clean. Anything like that, right? What was that? So you think Mary was doing what she was supposed to do? Who agrees with that? Ooh, who agrees that Mary was doing just what she was supposed to do at that time? Raising my eyebrow. There you go. Good job. That's right. Mary knew that Jesus was in her home, and this was a golden opportunity. She sat down and she listened to the teacher. She listened to what Jesus had to say. It was a once-in-a-lifetime thing for her. She was amazed. Martha got upset. Let me ask you a question. How are you going to make time this week to just sit down and listen to what God has to say to you? How do you think you'll do it? How do you think? You'll listen to him? I hope so. Gotcha. Read the Bible. All right, what else? Anybody? RJ? Right. Good one. Were you going to say that? Right, that's amazing. You can take time. You can just be still and listen to what God has to say. But if you're so busy doing everything around you, and you've got all these things coming in here, you're playing Fortnite, you're playing all these different games, Chutes and Ladders, or whatever you guys want to play. I know you have video games. What's the other game you guys play that you build stuff? Minecraft. So you have all that, you've got all that in your brain, and it's all this stuff. Sometimes, just have to sit and listen. Just be still.
Let's give it up. Man, I can go home now. Where's my keys? Oh, that's wonderful. I tell you, this is amazing. Every time that a child is involved in something in this church, it just raises it up one more level, doesn't it? Let's give it warm up one more time. Thank you. I'm going to take this opportunity to thank Amanda Bowman and Aaron Iosa, and I don't know if you know Joy Ames. She's she's the minister for the preschool ministry here in the church. It is just so important that we as a congregation are involved in the lives of these children. And if you haven't had the opportunity to get into a child's Bible and read a kid's Bible, it's amazing. And I will say to you, if you are at the milk drinking level of feeding in your Christian walk, that it's not embarrassing to start there. It's not embarrassing to go to the solid stories of the Bible and actually open up a children's Bible and read the message like Amanda just did to the children. So thank you for that. Thank you very much. You know, we are responsible for the kids. And it even tells us in Deuteronomy 11:18. Place these words on your heart and get them deep inside of you. Tie them to your hands and foreheads as a reminder. Teach them to your children. Talk about them wherever you are, sitting at home or walking in the street. Talk about them from the time that you get up in the morning to the time that you go to bed at night. Inscribe them in the doorposts and the gates of your cities so that you live a long time, and your children with you, on the soil that God promised to give to your ancestors for as long as there is a sky, as long as there's a sky over the earth. We need to teach our children. We need to bring up the next generation of believers. We all sit around and we talk about, what does it mean? What's happening to Christianity in this world? And in my opinion, it starts right there. If you have an opportunity to read with a child, maybe your kids are out now. Maybe your kids are out of the house now. Maybe we don't have any kids around. I guarantee you that there will be a spot for you in the overflow student ministry department. Guaranteed. Don't miss those opportunities. It's great. So let's get to the story then that Amanda was sharing with us with the children. So Jesus is coming to dinner. Wow. I can tell you when I first read that, I'm like, what would I do if Jesus was coming to dinner? I'm not even sure that I would be dusting all the dust bunnies on the top of the cabinet. I think I would be like, okay, I'm going to do this, and I want to ask him this, and I want to say this. But that's kind of the situation that we had with Mary. I mean, basically, Martha, has this idea that she wants to get all these things done. And Mary is focused in on just one thing. But we don't know the story. We don't know what happened. I mean, there may be a situation where we were under the impression that maybe, just maybe, and it doesn't say this, but just maybe they knew he was coming. So Martha says, okay, why don't you do this? And Martha says, well, okay, I'll do that. And why don't you do this? And I'll do that and do this. And we don't know, but Mary could have got all her things checked off that she was going to do and she was responsible for. So when she had all the things checked off, she went and sat. But not according to Martha. She was upset. But one of the things that happens is sometimes we get so distracted with things, and Amanda mentioned it. Sometimes we get so distracted with things on what's going on that we forget the reason that we even do it. One part of that I really, really like is basically when Jesus recognizes that, I had this impression in my mind. It was something like, Martha's like, working in the kitchen really hard, and when she was reading the passage and I was following it with my eyes, I just picture Martha coming in and saying, hold on a minute, Jesus, let me get your mic for a minute. You can finish your discussion in a minute. Come on, she's not even helping me. She's not even helping me. Can you say something? Come on, Jesus. And then she just backs off and drops the mic. Come on, do something. So what does he do in his grace and patience? What does he do that kind of brings it all together? He just gets that heart that we're so used to getting. And he calms her down and he says this. Take a look at this on the screen. He says, Martha, dear Martha, wanted Martha to know that wasn't being taken away from her. That was done on purpose because Jesus had her do exactly what he wanted her to do. So that's our message today. If you've got your notebook or you've got your phone and you're on the message page, which we have on our website or online, I'm sorry for not mentioning our recorded and online people. If you get your notebook out, here's the message for today. What can't be taken away. What can't be taken away. And here's the full write-out, if you're ready. And they have it up on the screen for us, I think. Oh, give us a little bit more time to get you where you are. On the screen in a minute, you will see. We focus on what can't be taken away, so that if our plans fail, our relationship with Jesus is strong no matter what else is taken away. We focus on what we can't be taken away, so that if our plans fail, our relationship with Jesus is strong no matter what else is taken away. Mary chose to sit at Jesus' feet. Mary chose to sit at Jesus' feet, which is exactly the first write down today. And that is, choose it. And we should see that on the screen. Choose it. Choose it. Mary chose to sit and listen to Jesus. And what's funny, I mentioned already, the text doesn't say that. But can you imagine what it would be like if both Martha and Mary went and sat at his feet? We'd have no story. So there had to be one that did what he was supposed to do and one that was focused on something else so that that story could be done. Regardless of the situation, Mary chose to sit at the feet. And you know, what's important to mention that you may or may not know is that ladies were not allowed to be sitting at a disciple's feet at that time. Women were not permitted to do that. So it was a big deal to Mary that got to be done and that she had the privilege of sitting at Jesus' feet. Not to mention she could have a complete conversation. It was a big deal. And you know what else is a big deal? You know, I worked on this basically all week preparing for this sermon. And oh, by the way, I have a job. And so I was doing that and having my other job too. So I apologize if this is a little chopped up because other things were going on. But I want to say this genuinely from my heart, and here's probably where the other emotions will come from. Jesus elevates women. He places a high value on women. He makes every woman in this church or listening online or on our video cast this morning, he makes them the image of him. And should I say the beautiful image of him. Each lady has worth and self-worth in this church and in this world. You know, Jesus talked to the Samaritan woman at the well. And if you're not familiar with the story, she's basically there at the well. And out of nowhere, guys are not supposed to talk to women because he was considered at that time to them a disciple. He comes right up and starts having a conversation with her. And he explains to her the difference between living water and the water that will make you thirsty again. But in that situation, he recognized and was sharing the importance. Yes, you've had 5 husbands, and yes, you're living with somebody in sin right now. But you are important. There was another story, too, that came up from the Bible. It was a woman who had severe bleeding for 12 years. And she did everything she could. She spent every single dime that she had in this entire world at that time to try to get from the stopping of the pain and sorrow of that 12 years of bleeding. And she heard the stories of Jesus, and she heard that there was someone who potentially could heal her. So she went to find him. And she said, I know if I can just get close enough to him, and I can touch his coat, that I can be healed. I just know that. So that's exactly what he did. And in this story, there's a part in this story that just blows me away in the part of this story. She touches him on his coat, and this power comes out of his body. And he turns around and he's like, what was that? And he turns and he looks, and there's a lady turned away. And he goes over to her and he says to her, who touched me? And she got up and said, I did. And at that time he said, daughter. He didn't say woman. He didn't say little girl, older lady. He said, daughter. Your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering. He called her daughter. And if I haven't told you lately, ladies of this church, personally, sisters, thank you. Thank you for being a daughter of the Most High God. Thank you for the role that you are in, to be strong, to be brave, to be grace-filled, to discern the life that the daughter of the Most High God that you were placed to be. God wants women and men to serve together. You know, Ruth Powell, the director for the National Church on Living, wrote an article about the gender gaps in churches. And she reported that 60% of the churchgoers throughout the country and nationwide, 60% of them are women. And if you're curious and you don't know my other job that I have, I'm sorry to keep bragging on it. The other job that I have, I'm responsible for like the people that come into the church, visitors and members and people who attend and those kinds of things. And if you're curious about our numbers, 58% of our people are women and 42% are men. So I say to you, St. Andrew's women, you rock. You rock. And as I thought about that, I didn't want to hurt too many feelings, so I guess I would say that the men, I guess, that we roll. So together we rock and roll. Yeah, good enough. So Mary chose to be with Martha, and she's putting an emphasis on preparation, where Mary sat at the feet. You know, and it's so easy for us to be on teams. We're really, in this church, in the leadership of this church, want so bad for the people of this church. Story that's going to bring this to light. But if you're not in a small group, or you're not involved in friendship and connection and living life, I would really ask you to put it on your heart that you think about ways in which you can do. Oh, that's so uncomfortable. It is. Everything is hard before it's easy. Everything you do is hard first and easy second. So think about that. We'll talk a little bit about that. But we get involved in these teams that we're on, no matter what we're in. And we get involved in the things that we think God wants us to do. We're involved in things that we think God is encouraging us to do. But in fact, we get so, this is a Presbyterian speaking too, this is hilarious. We get so wrapped up in the nuts and bolts of things that we can't even figure out how the machine even works. So we need to focus on Jesus as the center. Focus on Jesus as the center. We must choose to listen to Jesus, to surrender to his will for our lives, and to follow him, and to worship him, and to be with him in good times and in bad. It's saying no to those things of our lives that hurt. It's saying no to those things that we don't need, and focusing in on praising our Lord Jesus Christ. Which is bringing me to your next write down. We had choosing it. And so our next one is, and thank you, Forrest, for wearing your Nike hat for me today, and just do it. So, up on the screen, just do it. Just do it. Which is our second point. Thank you for seeing it. I appreciate it. So Mary sat with the Master, hanging on every word. Listen to that. Hanging on every word. She did it. She did it with her whole heart. She was probably even leaning. There it is. Woo! Let's do it. Leaning forward. She was leaning forward with all of her heart and soul. She was leaning in, listening, hanging on every single word. And she understood that she understood that Jesus is the Son of God. and that he came from heaven, and he died on the cross for our sins, and he rose again. She really, really believed that. She had that in her heart. It was at the center of her. And by doing that, she knew that. That's why she was hanging on every word. It's pretty intense. It's extremely intense. You know, if you are new to the Bible, and I mentioned it's not embarrassing to pick up a child's Bible. I had, mentioned in previous sermons that I've done here that some of my fondest memories of my grandmother on Saturday evenings was sitting at the end of the bed as a child, as one of those down there, even the sixth grader, sitting on the end of the bed with my grandmother reading me stories from the children's Bible. But if you are new to Christianity, you are new to all of this, you're not really sure, I've picked up a Bible, I've read just parts here and there, I would ask you to focus in on the Gospels. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Focus in on those areas. What's amazing about the Bible, when you're in the Bible, when you have to understand that anywhere that you cut into that Bible, you open it up, Jesus is there. I've heard people say that if you cut the Bible, it bleeds Jesus in all of those places. So there was a story in Mark that Jesus came across a man who was a cripple in his hand. And the religious leaders, there was this thing going back between what Jesus was doing and these religious leaders that basically were like stalkers. They were like walking around and following him and kind of saying, what's he going to do? Oh man, let's write this down. I don't know, man. They were stalking him. They were going after him. But anyway, this guy had a crippled hand. And he's like, oh, move over there because he's getting ready to cripple him. He's getting ready to fix him. He's getting ready to help him. Come on. We want to be over there to see if he makes any mistakes. They were scheming to get him. They want to get him somehow. So he goes to heal this guy. And they're watching closely to see what he does. And to me, in my mind, it's like, you're doing something great. Why are you going after him? I mean, in the Bible, they're basically saying that they wanted Jesus dead. How freaked out is that? It's crazy. But they were doing it. They wanted Jesus gone. They were threatened by him. They wanted to kill him. It's so unnecessary. Why does anyone do that? I don't understand. But I want to encourage you, church, in that story right now, what I just said. I want to encourage you as a church to place your faith walk with Jesus. Your faith walk with Jesus. And do it not in criticism, but in wonder. Your faith is done not in criticism, but in wonder. Leaning in, sitting on the edge of your bed, leaning in, listening for the will of God in the things that you do. Can we do that here at St. Andrews? Can we? I don't know. It's important for us to see things through Jesus' eyes as a part of us. Not like those religious guys, but more like Mary. Put aside what's not necessary. Is it really necessary? Is it? She sat at the feet. There's one here, Acts 4:13. I'll give him a little heads up. I'm not giving him the key. Peter and John healed a crippled man, and they were to be put in a trial. And they spoke to religious leaders, and this is what they said. When they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were uneducated, just common men, they were astonished. And they recognized that he had been with Jesus. I want that here for St. Andrews. When this whole series started, oh my gosh, it's getting close. This won't take but a couple of extra minutes. I apologize. When John first started this series, way back at the very beginning, he started talking about all these things. And then Barry came in after him, and he started talking about all these things. And then John came back, and now I'm kind of the closer, I guess is the best way of putting it. But one of the things that kept popping in my head was that movie Groundhog's Day. And you laugh and you giggle, but I really want to share something with you about that. In that movie, it's basically Bill Murray is a reporter, and he goes to do a report on Puxatawny Phil in the town, in Puxatawny. And what happens is that he goes through the day, and then at the end of the day, or a portion of the day, he wakes up the next morning in that same hotel room on the exact same day. And he keeps going through this over and over and over and over again. And at the very beginning of it, he was a beast. He was self-centered, he was arrogant, he was non-approachable. But what ended up happening was there was a point in the movie where he gets to a spot, in it's one of the segments, where he gets to a spot and he's like, you know what, I'm just giving up. So he goes out and he punches the guy that always says hello to him, and he jumps up and down in the water, and he just does all this crazy stuff. But then again, when it comes back around again, it's that same day, he's there in that exact same thing. As a matter of fact, I think it was that song, Sonny and Cher's song, he always woke up to with the clock radio. So anyway, but to say to you, there's some really powerful things to me that come out of that. You know, first of all, when he started to do things differently. He started to make changes as he was going through. He was able to go into a little diner, and he was able to say, your name's Mary, your name's Tom, your name's Jack, you've got 3 brothers, you've got me. He was learning about the people. So each week that he was learning about the people and getting to know the people more and more and more, he ended up becoming a better person. So again, he wakes up and it's that same song, and he's like, okay, you know what? Today, what the heck, Mrs. Thompson is upset. Why are you upset, Mrs. Thompson? Oh, I'm upset because I don't have enough students to play piano. I'll play piano. And so he gets all these lessons from this lady, and then all of a sudden he becomes a concert pianist over time. And a lot of things are happening that way. The mayor of Puxatawny gets choking on a thing, and he had a first aid class he took. So he goes up and he goes, I know what to do. And he pops the food out of the guys and saves him, and now he's a hero kind of thing. So what I'm saying to you in regards of all of that, and to bring all of this to a close, is that you need to do different things in your life. And yes, the alarm clock will go off in the morning, and yes, it will happen. And yes, those things, will become rote to you every day. But it's up to you to do something different. And like John said originally, and Barry put it well, and it's just, you've got to do something that you haven't done before. And as Barry was kind of implying to us, inch by inch, life's a cinch. Yard by yard, life is hard. We need to do small little changes in our life to make a big difference. And you know what's amazing about that movie to me? Is the more he did for other people, the more he was graciously given gifts throughout the day for himself. He made other people's lives better, and by doing so, it made his life better. And that's what I hope for you here at church. And prayer partners, if you please go to your prayer partner positions, I'll go ahead and pray for us.